Working with subtracting integers. When subtracting integers, it is easier to add addition signs between integers so that you are able to follow the same rules as addition. Okay? Remember when we worked with addition of integers, we used those sayings, same symbol, find the sum, apply the same symbol, and different symbols, find the difference, apply the larger sign. Okay? Today, instead of thinking of problems as 3 minus 8. Sometimes when students are struggling with understanding this, if they convert it into an addition problem, it makes it a little bit easier for them. Now, the older that you get and the more comfortable you get with integers, you're going to be perfectly fine with solving this problem without rewriting it. And some of you may be there already. And then that's when you're going to say, I don't need this step. I'm going to go ahead and just do, hey, I have two different symbols in front, those are different, I'm going to find the difference. Some of you may need to do this step, and we're just going to practice it today, and then after today, you can decide if that's a step that you need to do. So here, I went through and I put a plus sign between these, and then I made sure so that it didn't look so confusing that I put a parenthesis around that minus 8 or negative 8. Okay? The only exception to this rule of adding a plus sign is when you are subtracting a negative number. In this case, you're going to have to simplify first, and we are going to go through and actually practice that. So here's a situation where we can't just add a plus sign in between them. When we have 3 minus a negative 8. So we'll be practicing a step that you can use to go through and simplify this. Okay, so let's start out with the basic parts. Here we have a negative and then a negative 12 in parentheses. Now, right now I'm just giving you the very basics, but ultimately when you come across problems like this, it's actually going to come into play in problems like this, where we're going to have another number out in front. So right now we're just basically practicing this process right here. Okay, just to get some reps in, we're going to practice that process. So anytime we have two negative numbers next to each other, no symbol in between, and it's not an absolute value bar, but it is a parenthesis like we have right here, we're going to go ahead and look at this in terms of, hey, we have two negative symbols right next to each other. Now this only works when it's parentheses and there's not a symbol in between. Those two negative numbers right next to each other, we can take one of those negatives and flip it to make a plus sign. So this becomes positive 12. So our answer to that part is a positive 12. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this one. Two negative signs right next to each other. It really means like the opposite of negative 7. So if you want to read it that way, that's another way to do it. The opposite of negative 7 would be positive 7. Okay. Chunk these two together. Those two negative signs make a positive sign, so plus 9. And then once again, two negative signs here. Becomes a plus 8 or positive 8. Okay, so that's just practicing that one basic step. Okay, I'm trying to get you lots of reps in here so that you're understanding that really simple concept. Okay, so let's go ahead and try a couple here. I'm going to pull these ones that I have off to the side out. Oops, forgot I had my marker in my hand. Okay, so here's where we're going to go ahead and apply it now into a problem. So my first step when I look at this problem is I'm noticing that I need to simplify right here. Okay, so now when I go through and I simplify that, I've still got the negative 10. And then this is the concept that we just used right there. So the opposite of negative 7, or we combine those two negative signs, and we end up with a plus sign. So now it becomes negative 10 plus 7. Different symbols, find the difference. The difference is 3. Apply the larger sign. 10's a bigger number. It had a negative symbol, so it becomes negative 3 for our answer. Okay. Let's try another one. Simplify here. That's your first step. So those two negatives make it a positive 10. The opposite of negative 10 is positive 10. 8 plus 10. Hey, that one's pretty easy. We don't even have to use our integer rules. 8 plus 10 is 18. Okay, so that one we ended up with 18. Okay, so go ahead and try this one. This one I'm going to have you do on your own. So why don't you go ahead and pause your video and work your way through this problem. Okay, so we should have ended up when we did this one with a positive 2. If you didn't get positive 2, then you're going to want to try and figure out where you made your mistakes. Okay, you can check with me, you can check with a classmate. All right, let's see what else we have over here. Okay, so that was pretty basic. Here's one where it's a little more complex. Okay, now we've added another number in there. We're still going to do the basic of simplifying those double negatives first. Okay, and then we're just going to work left to right because it'll all be addition, subtraction. So here I see that double negative. I want to simplify that. So we have 6 minus 13. These right here become a plus sign, so plus 12. There we're back to what we learned in lesson 2, where we've got more than 2 numbers in our equation. So I'm a chunker. I like to chunk numbers that have the same symbols together. So when I look at this, I like to look at it this way. There's a positive, there's a positive. No symbol in front means it's positive. So when I put those two together, 6 plus 12 gives me 18. And then I still have that minus 13 that's sitting right here. So now 18 minus 13 is going to give me 5 for an answer. Okay? Let's do another one. So here we're going to go ahead and simplify where we have those double negatives right next to each other. So I have 6. These two become plus 7. And then a minus 10. Okay? I'm going to group things together. You can work left to right. I'm just one that tends to group together. And in this case, it ends up working left to right anyway because these are both positives. So I end up with 13 minus 10. Okay, basic subtraction. You don't have to think of that as negative 10. You can think of it as 13 minus 10, which gives us 3. So we end up with 3 for that one. Okay, you are going to try this one on your own. Ho, ho, ho. Let's try and change this one up a little bit. Let's throw in an extra negative in there. I must have forgotten to put it in there when I typed it out. So we're going to make a negative sign right here. And I'll put a parenthesis here. Okay, so go through and simplify this problem. Pause your video, work through it, and then come back and give me your answer. You should have ended up, when you worked through this problem, with an answer of 7. Okay? If you didn't get that, check with me, check with a partner, see if you can figure out where you made your mistake.